There's a like step-by-step formula that you can follow that if you give it to anyone and they follow that, they're going to be successful. So I ended up building up my coaching business, and in the first 18 months, we hit $1 million in sales, and it just kept growing and growing from there. A lot of it was like I was listening to all the other gurus, all the other coaches, like everything out there, like this is what you need to do to grow a business. And I was like, you need an integrator in your business. So I'm like, okay, I'll hire an integrator. And I had an integrator in my business for 10 months. And I then was like, hey, this isn't working. So I let him go, and nothing in my business changed. So it was like, okay, so what was I even paying for?
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest. Welcome, Brooke. We are so excited to have you here with us today. Go ahead and tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited and really honored to be a part of your podcast. Like, I've been looking at all the things that you guys are doing, and it's just amazing. And I love the results you're getting for your clients. So really, it's an honor to be here. So thank you. So I started my business I've done a lot of businesses. I've been in the online digital world for almost 15 years now. And I started a web development and online marketing agency and built that up and sold that, and then started a coaching business. And the reason that I decided to do a coaching business was because I wanted to be able to help clients in a deeper way. Like, yeah, it was fun building all of the stuff on the back end and like building their websites and giving them a social media strategy, which back then was way easy. Like, this was 2008. It was like post.
Like be on social media. That's it.
So that part, like, it was fun, but I wanted to go deeper into helping them really figure out like why they're in business. What is it that they want to do, and build up their businesses that way.
So at this point, how do you help people? Like, what's your business model right now?
So right now, I'm mainly focusing on social media, and I've learned through all the different businesses that I've been doing is there really is like a system. There's a strategy. There's a like step-by-step formula that you can follow that if you give it to anyone and they follow that, they're going to be successful. So I'm starting to build up playbooks based off of all the lessons that I've learned in building businesses. So the one I'm focusing on right now is social media, because that's the thing that I feel like most people are struggling with. Like, they want to know, how do I go out there? How do I post? And social media there's so much out there right now that it really is very loud. So it's finding those ways that you can stand out in the crowd and put out social media content that really matters, that you have people that are reaching out to you, not just to work with you, but just your post really helped me through this situation, and a lot of that is being vulnerable and sharing the messy sides of your life.
Yeah, that's true. I think all too often people think they need to be Instagram perfect, right? To be successful online. And it's like, that's so unrelatable to most people, that if they're actually looking to work with someone, they're looking to have a relationship with someone, they want to be able to feel like they're a normal person.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So much more healthy. Awesome. So tell us, how did you get started? Like, were you always into entrepreneurship? Was it like a bit of a journey for you, or How did you come around?
Definitely a journey. I went to school to be an elementary school teacher. So like this whole like online business and marketing and everything was really new to me. So I had done my web development. It was one of those like I just did it on the side, and it wasn't really like any big business or anything like that. But my husband had actually started a car dealership, and it was a horrible business model. So in 18 months, we had 1 month that we profited $800. Other than that, we lost money every single month. So we were looking at this pile of debt, and I was like, all right, I need to do something. And I remember seeing an ad for a coach, and I got on a phone call with him and talked with him. And I like deep down, I just knew this was the step I needed to do. And stepping out of that comfort zone and like putting yourself out there. I actually used to be super, super introverted. I didn't even like pick up the phone to order a pizza because I'd have to talk to someone I didn't know. Like online ordering now is amazing for introverts. But I knew I needed to put myself out there, and I needed to take a big, massive step in order to push me in to do that. So I ended up hiring this coach and followed his system. And then that's when I learned like I really am good at systems. And if I have a system to follow, I can do really well. So that's when I started figuring out, okay, what other systems are there that we can start implementing that I could then give to other people to follow those. So I ended up building up my coaching business. And in the first 18 months, we hit $1 million in sales. And it just kept growing and growing from there. And then I started growing team members. And there was a point where it was about maybe 4 or 5 years into building this coaching business. We were doing around $2 million a year. I had 27 employees, and I realized I didn't like this business. I didn't like what I had built. You know, it was working a lot, even with the employees that I had. I was ignoring my family, and I know my personality is one where, like, if I get into something, like I'm really into it, and I'll just keep doing it. And then there would be times I'd be working because I loved the things that I was doing, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, I do have a family. I need to go do something. And so that's when I started doing all the things wrong. I wanted to still push this business because I wanted to make money, but I didn't love the business. And when you don't love what you're doing, things stop working. My ads stopped working. My marketing stopped working. Then I started losing money in my business. And so I had to start letting people go. And I realized that now looking back, I can see I was out of alignment. I wasn't in line in the business anymore. I wasn't in line with the way that I was helping people, and I needed to create something new. And so I really closed the doors on that business, a business that was making money, you know, and I was like, I need to figure out what it is that I'm doing. So I had a couple other things that I was doing on the side because I always played around with stuff. So I put those all like on autopilot so I could still continue to make money. And that's when we decided to sell our house and buy a sailboat and go sail across the ocean. So we've done that for the last year, and it was so good because it helped me really define like, what is it that I want? Who am I? What are the things that are really important to me to create a new business that is in line with exactly what it is that I want to do.
That's awesome. So what is that new business that's fully aligned? Like what does that look
So the new business, we're actually just launching our very first program in January. And so it's called Social Media That Matters. And it's taking those things that really do matter to you, figuring out that, and then putting that out on social media. And it's amazing. Just by doing that, I've been getting private clients that are reaching out to me and wanting me to help them in their business and help them find their voice and their story and get the clarity that they need in their business. And it's amazing when you are truly in line with like who you have been created to be, that things will come.
That's so cool. I love that. I love that. So what is your main platform then that you live on, or that you're building your audience and nurturing them with?
So right now it's Facebook. And then we also have a social media scheduling software that publishes to all the platforms. So I'm mainly creating content on Facebook, but then we're repurposing it across all platforms.
Yeah, I honestly, that's for us as well. Like, we're everywhere. You'll find us on all the platforms doing all the things, but in reality, I'm creating it all for Facebook.
Yeah.
And then we just let it be sent everywhere. Because there's no way I can manage or focus or do multiple platforms with different content and different strategies. It's like one thing, do this one really well, and send it out there in case it works. And it's interesting because even like Reels or different things on Facebook, they do all right on Facebook. Then I upload it to YouTube Shorts, and it might get 10, 20 times the reach and views there. And I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah. Well, I think
It's a good thing I sent it there.
it's more important to create really good content that's going to help people, that's going to inspire them. That's more important than creating content that will play to the algorithm.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen it time and time again. People who they don't have crazy numbers, they don't have this massive following, but they can create a really solid income because their people are in absolute love with them.
Yeah.
Like, their audience they're super fans, they're dialed in, and they'd, go to war for these people. They're really on their team. And so I think that really speaks to that, being able to build that tribe, even if it's small but it's so strong that you can build it's a great foundation for your business.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So what is your launch plan, and what's your strategy to get it out there?
So I've done lots of different strategies to launch different things. 2020, it was amazing to do like 5-day challenges. So we were doing 5-day challenges like every other month to launch different things. So that strategy has worked really well. This time, I think we're going to do a 1-day workshop, because I want people to, regardless if they decide to join a program or not, like, if you're going to be spending time with me, I want you to be getting something out of that. So in the workshop, we'll be talking about the different strategies behind creating that social media content, because there's lots of people that post out there. I have clients come to me all the time that they say, I'm posting on social media, I'm doing all of these things, but I'm not getting the reach that I want. And 9 times out of 10, it's because they don't have clarity on like what their business actually stands for. They don't have clarity on, like, I call them the pillars of their business. Once you understand those pillars of your business, then you create content around that. And then people start understanding what it is that you actually do. So the workshop will be helping them go through figuring out what those pillars are so they know how to create that content. And then we'll show them how to take that content, and in under 2 hours a week, you can create 40, 50 different pieces of content and get that distributed out there. So
very cool. I like it. So this sounds like a longer workshop. This isn't like a 90-minute webinar. Is this a couple hours?
Yeah, it'll be a couple hour thing, because we're going to be diving in. It's hands-on. We're going to be like Q&A, because I used to do live summits and like in-person events. And I always wanted them to be like, if you come, there's those events that you go to that you sit, you listen to everybody, and it's amazing. You feel so good, but then you go home and you're like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so
We've all been there. Yeah.
I want to have anything that I put on. I want people to be able to walk away with something tangible, that they've learned a concept and they've implemented that concept. Because that's the biggest problem that we have, is we're always learning. There's so much you can learn on YouTube and listening to podcasts and all of that, but we don't take the time to actually implement those things that we're learning.
So when it comes to traffic, whether it's for this launch that you're working up to, or previously when you had your very successful, $2 million year coaching business, what are your favorite traffic strategies?
I love reaching out and doing like different joint ventures. That has been really successful, because one of the things I like about that is you meet really awesome people, and their audience loves them. your audience loves you when you do something together. That's why I love being on podcasts like this, because you get to see different ways of doing things. And it's really a great collaboration. So that's one that I really like. Facebook ads there's a love-hate relationship with Facebook ads.
Yeah.
So that's how I built my last business, was all through running Facebook ads and doing YouTube ads. I think YouTube is another great strategy. I think you need strategies, especially if you're first getting started. You need some long-term strategies, and you also need some like short-term strategies to get some wins. So Facebook is really good for that. Like, I need wins right now, because you can get that instant feedback of what's going on. But then you can do things like doing podcasts and having a YouTube channel and things like that will build up over time and bring you in the leads. What I like about the long-term strategies is if you do it correctly, that it will work for you forever and you don't have to do anything. Like it's the work that you do once, and then it just continues to keep bringing in benefits. So, but it is a longer term strategy.
Yeah, no, and I completely agree. And that's actually a big part of our program is like, I love long-term strategies. You're building those digital real estate assets, right? You're putting all those things that can serve you long-term, but that's a long-term game. And if you come into this thinking, well, I want to make X amount 90 days, but you're only doing a long-term strategy, that ain't gonna happen. Maybe in a couple years, right? That might happen, right? So you have to understand the amount of time and effort and momentum that builds over time for those things. So being able to turn on ads and just get the traffic you need to make sales right now, while you then spend some time building up some content, building up some things that will serve you long term. I mean, it was 2 weeks ago, we just brought on a new client, and he found us on a YouTube video we made 3 years ago. And it like the easiest sales call ever. Like, yep, I'm ready to sign. Because he was super targeted. He found us from a very specific YouTube video. He was sold through the process, and he's ready to rock and roll. So we love that. But yeah, I think people, unfortunately, whether it's just good marketing of other people teaching those strategies, like, yeah, it works so well. Like, yeah, they do work well, but they're slow. And you have to have that expectation right away. And if you think you're going to hit the lottery and go viral, and like hoping to go viral is not a business strategy.
I love that.
That's not a good plan. Let's control some traffic, turn on some ads, and then work on those pieces. I'm completely on the same page for you. That's so true. So awesome. Do you like to sell fully automated on through your webinars or through your live workshops, or do you do like a book a call sort of thing as your call to action when you're working or bringing on clients? What's your preferred method?
I do both. I have built up a sales team and done sales trainings and everything, especially when you're selling higher ticket. So in my coaching business, my program was $10,000. And so to build, you need to have a sales team to do that. But then you could also do lower ticket funnels where you can just sell straight from a webinar. Especially if you're first getting started, my opinion is it doesn't really matter what your price point is. I think you should be doing sales calls, because you get to know your audience so much more. Yes. You get to understand where they're coming from. You get to see their perspective. And even when I was building up my coaching business, and things I had a sales team and things were automated and all of that, there were times where when I started feeling disconnected from my clients, I would just jump on a sales call. And just by doing that, one is good to exercise that muscle every once in a while, but you get to be reconnected, and it reminds you of why it is that you're doing what you're doing. So, and that's another reason why I like sales calls too.
I think that is so true. And I've seen it. I mean, that's when you hear, I tell my clients, you should get to the point, your program should be so awesome that you feel morally obligated to sell it. Mm-hmm. I feel that way about our program, because I've been on those sales calls and I've heard the stories, and I know what people are struggling with and their pains and their previous bad experiences that they've had and all of this stuff. And I know that if I don't succeed in helping them see this vision and see that this is what's going to really get them results, then I'm failing them, because then somebody else is going to sell them some crap and take their life savings for way more and do X, Y, and Z. And then they're going to be in trouble. So I completely agree with all of that. And on top of it, like, I've never truly studied copy. Okay, Todd is the copywriter in our business. That's been, we kind of divide and conquer. I master my things, he masters his things. But at the same time, because I do sales calls, that is invaluable. So I naturally can have conversations on my live videos, on the interactions that I have that have good copy, if you will. You're hitting those pain points. You're really doing all of those core things because I've had tons and tons and tons of conversations. And by collaborating with Todd and helping him see, well, no, this is what they're actually complaining about. This is what their pains are. This is like, no, when we collaborate with his expertise in actual copy, my expertise in what the heck they're actually saying, that's when you hit the, your webinar knocks it out of the park, or your funnel has massive conversions, because there's no substitute from having those direct conversations with people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it helps you know what to actually offer them too. So I had a client that had hired me to create a high ticket offer for them. So as I was creating it, I was like, okay, well, what's the problem that we're solving? And they're like, well, we want a high ticket offer. Okay, well, what's the problem that we're solving? And it wasn't until like we could do surveys and like really start talking to the audience that we're like, oh, this is what we thought that they needed, but that's actually not what they need. This is what they need instead. And when you really can understand where they're coming from, and most of the time we're in business where we did the same thing that we're trying to help people with. So we can look back and say, okay, this is where we were at 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or maybe even a year ago, and say, I understand where you're coming from. This is where I'm at now. And you give them that hope of like, this is what could happen, but you have to understand where they're at and where they're coming from in order to create good copy and create an offer that people want to buy.
So what are some of the biggest wins that you've helped your clients achieve?
Well, I love even just having clients just say, I have so much clarity. I know exactly what it is I'm supposed to do. Like that, I think, is an underrated win.
It's true.
So that actually is massive when they know what to do, they know the direction, and they know how to make decisions for themselves. Because my goal is not to have people need me all the time. I want that to teach them what I know, teach them how to think so they can go and make those decisions for themselves. So that to me is a huge win. But I mean, I've had clients that have build their own $1 million coaching businesses. I've had clients who I had a client that just recently launched her own summit and had a $20,000 launch. And it's just so fun to be a part of those amazing big wins. But I also still love like the failures. Like it's great to see my clients win, and I love that, and to see the growth that they have through that. But when they fail, it's a lot easier to show them, okay, what lessons can we pull out of this? And that's where you get to teach them how to think, because not everything, just like you said, your very first VSL, when you put it out there, it didn't work that great. Like that's the things that I love. I don't like it when people like knock it out of the park that first go. And the reason is because that was me. Like I launched a webinar. I spent $600 in ads my very first month getting people to a webinar, and I made $10,000 back. Like that's a huge return on investment. And then it just kept working. Like the next month we did 20,000. The next month we did 30,000. And like, we just kept growing until we hit $1 million. But then things stopped working. And then Facebook changes the way that they do ads and all this stuff. And then I'm like, crap, I don't know what to do. And so I would much rather people at the very beginning, when they're playing smaller, they don't have this $1 million business with lots of employees. And now they're trying to figure out things because success just kind of fell in your lap. And that's what happened to me. And so I now want to help my clients be able to see, like, let's look at all the failures. Let's see the lessons. Let's see how we can change the way that we think and come up with better strategies. So that way, the next time you fail, because we're all going to fail, that we can find ways that we can learn from and change that to create better outcomes. So that's kind of a weird way to look at wins, but
awesome. So you've got a big launch coming in January. What's your process or plan for scaling and growing in the next year?
Well, I'm planning on launching a podcast and also a YouTube channel. So I looked at all the things in the last business that I created. What were the things that I did that was really well? YouTube was a great asset. Podcast was an amazing asset. And both of those, like we said, are like the longer term strategies. But one thing that I want to focus on is I don't want to focus just on getting clients right now. Like, yeah, that's important. But I want to think about where in 6 months from now, where they're going to be and where are they at right now, and create content for where they are now so I can lead them to where they could be 6 months from now. So it's like nurturing your audience, and really that's how you grow your own clients, right? Is that you help them and think, okay, where are they going to be? Where are they at right now? And then how can I create content around those things? So really it's beginning through social media and through podcasts and YouTube. So
do you think Facebook ads are going to be part of your plan in the next year?
yeah, because it's a great way to get, like, you need that cash flow right now, Yeah. So it's a good reason to start that. But even using Facebook ads in retargeting and in nurturing campaigns, that I found has worked really, really well too, because it's way cheaper and you start seeing like what messaging is my audience really like resonating with, and you can get that feedback instantly, because I'm one that like I like to move really fast. And so I want like really short feedback loops, and Facebook ads create that.
Like ad
sale.
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes having those retargeting and doing some different things, it'll give you, it can be a bit of a longer process, but can work out much better in the end. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So cool. So what would you feel is some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome at this point to get where you are today?
There's been lots of challenges. I think the biggest one was making sure that I was in line with what it is that I'm doing, and there was a point where I was in line, but then things just kind of, I don't know if they got out of control or my focus just changed a little bit, a lot of my personality, like I probably have like OCD or something where I like get very, very focused on something and I just like have to get this done and I can't stop. So it's been a lot of personal development and being able to let go, and like whatever I get done today, like that's what I needed to get done, and being okay with that. And not like, I used to work till 6 or 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I have 4 kids, and you can't do that with 4 kids, And then we started homeschooling our kids. So homeschooling and running a business. And then when we were living on a sailboat, like that was a whole nother dynamic that we had to figure out. And really that experience helped me to slow down and really be focused on the moment and what's important right now in that moment. Because I'm very futuristic. I love to look down road and say, okay, a year from now, here's what we want to do. Here's all the things that need to happen. Let's reverse engineer it, like all of those things. But I wasn't very good at living in the moment. And that was one of the things that in my last business that it actually really was detrimental to the business, because I wasn't focusing on what we needed right now. I was constantly building for the future. And so in that, I was hiring way more people than I actually needed. And like, I didn't have a very good rule of thumb of how many employees do you really need to have versus the income that you have. Like, because everyone always said like, hire before you're ready. And like, just get out there. Like you have to hire in order to grow. And like all of that, there's elements that are true about that. But I think people throw that out a little bit too lightly. And so it was like, well, if I want to grow, then I'm just going to start hiring people. So I hired a copywriter, and it was through when like Traction first came out, and I was like, you need an integrator in your business. So I'm like, okay, I'll hire an integrator. And I had an integrator in my business for 10 months. And I then was like, hey, this isn't working. So I let him go, and nothing in my business changed. So it was like, okay, so what was I even paying for? And so a lot of it was like I was listening to all the other gurus, all the other coaches, like everything out there, like this is what you need to do to grow a business. And that actually is like, it's more important that you listen to your own intuition, because deep down, like you really do know what it is that you're supposed to do. And when you can follow that and follow your gut, it's going to turn out way better than listening to other people that you think know better than you.
I think there's a lot to that. And I think there's also sort of a cautionary flip side to that as well, is that some people with a certain tendency will hear that and say they'll allow themselves to stay in comfort zones, if you know, right? So how do you combat that and find the like push yourself to keep growing versus following your gut? No, you know what I mean? Like, because that's a dynamic. That's can be a challenge for folks to be able to learn to trust themselves, but at the same time push themselves to grow versus staying comfortable where they, in their comfort zones.
The biggest thing is to set scary, big, huge goals. Like if your goal right now is to make $1 million in your business, your goal should be 10 million in your business. Because then you're like, holy crap, well, I can't even figure out how to do like 1 million. How would I do 10? That's what you need. So when you do super big goals that you have no clue how you're going to actually do it, but you're continually working on it and focusing on that, it's going to naturally put you in situations to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I was one that like, I loved my comfort zone. I didn't want to get out of it, but I knew it's something I needed to do. And so I started on like, what are some of the things that scare me? And I would just do those things. Like, I'm actually really scared of fish. I'm better now. I mean, I lived on a sailboat in the ocean, but I used to be really scared of fish. And so one of the things that I did, there was this lake by my parents' house that they had tons of carp, and like carp are like ugly fish. So they have huge mouths and stuff. But my kids loved to go and sit on the dock, and they would put like bread in between their toes and let the fish eat out of their toes. Like, that's just the most disgusting thing to me. But I was like, I gotta face my fears. So I put my feet, they didn't touch me, but I did put my feet in water with fish for 5 seconds. And there's so many things now, like that sounds like a stupid thing, but there's so many times now that it's like, I put my feet in water with fish. Like, I can do this. So that was one of the things that helped me just like push me out of that comfort zone, and doing big dreams. Like, it was our dream to get on a sailboat and sail around the Caribbean and stuff, which it actually is kind of crazy and super scary. We actually started in South Africa and we sailed across the Atlantic Ocean. Like, terrifying, way out of my comfort zone. But because now I've done things like that, it's now in business. Anything out of my comfort zone is no big deal.
It's nothing. I couldn't see land for days with my children in the middle of the ocean. So for people who are very interested in what you have to offer and your message and just your story and everything else, how do people connect with you?
So I have 2 ways. First is on Facebook. I'm always on Facebook, and I made it a goal this year to post every single day. So I'm always putting out content, and they can find me on it. It's my URL is facebook.com/therealbrookeelder. There's lots of them out there. So, and then the second way is to just go to learn more about social media and like how to actually figure out what those pillars are and stuff like that. I do have a free class right now that they can go through, and it's on socialcontentmatrix.com.
There you go. Perfect. Well, go check Brooke out. This has been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much. It was so much fun. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I want to tell everyone that's listening, like, make sure you go and leave a review and comment on this podcast, because that's how it helps out the Digital Trailblazer podcast.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.